Okay, so Andreas, I've really been looking forward to talking to you because you're talking about the big five with Google and Microsoft and Facebook and maybe the big six if we bring in Alibaba as well to
Hmm.
the equation. And I guess you are revolutionary. You want to create equal access, and you have spotted this future trend that material values have no real value to us anymore. All our assets have been sucked into the computers, into the digital world. And now suddenly we have these six actors ruling the whole world. So, what do you think is the main critical point about this? If you have, you're talking about different power bases, which one do you think is the worst that we have been giving away?
That's hard to say at this point, but let's just start by establishing that we've put a lot of power in very few hands in the biggest five companies: Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. Um, they started off as disruptors, making a little bit of a rebellion, turning consumer behavior around, also providing a lot of great services. I mean, this is not like an armed revolution. This is just a result of our decisions as consumers. It's just that we've decided unanimously that we agree on what the internet should be at this point. So that's where we get to one of the main problems, I think. We've already boxed in our view of the internet. Nothing is being developed today that doesn't, somehow correspond with the views of the big five. Nobody's putting a lot of venture capital into making something that's just completely outside the box of Google or completely incompatible with anything Microsoft or and for obvious reasons, because if you make some new software that makes a Microsoft software computer just explode, nobody's going to want that. Nobody's going to. So we're so early into a digital consumer revolution, a little over 20 years. We really should be trying everything like crazy. We're not. We're already boxed in. We're already shaping our worldview after these big
Yeah,
five,
yeah.
tiny.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I think maybe that we are limiting ourselves as far as being creative and being innovators. I think that may be the biggest problem. And then there's other issues that goes along with that, of course, where we need to figure out how much are we going to give away of our privacy? That's a given. What is this going to do to small businesses? Are they going to thrive or are they going to die? What does this do to the balance of the world? There's 3.5 billion people in the world who has yet to be online. What does that mean?
Well, and one of the questions from the audience when we were together, they actually said, but isn't this good for the democratization process?
Oh, and it is. It's so many things have gotten easier. One point I like to make is to quote the American culture researcher Clay Shirky when he says, "Getting organized just get easier." It's gotten so much easier to rally around a political cause or to find like-minded people, and that's a wonderful thing. I think that it can be a wonderful tool. All of these things can be wonderful tools. Uh, but there's always going to be, when there's a powerful tool, there's always going to be reaction and there's always going to be repression. And the big fight now is to keep our idea of the internet is fairly open. Compare it to cable TV. If you're paying for cable TV, you're paying. This is what you get with basic cable. You get these channels, and what if you like to pay some more? Well, then you get all these channels and some more, and then you get all these channels. Now, net neutrality is the principle that guarantees that the internet won't be like that. So that the internet will say you have internet access, so you can go anywhere online. End of story. But there's a lot of money to be made if internet service providers and other service providers can differentiate the internet like if it was cable TV. So here's free basic internet. You can use Google, Facebook, and Wikipedia. Pay a little more, and then you can use this and that. Pay a little more, you get this at this level. That would be terrible. That would be terrible for small business, but it would also be terrible for politics in many ways. I mean, just imagine if some people will pay their way.
People in the audience also spoke about the Bitcoin or the blockchain technology as a way to surpass this autonomous ownership,
Mm-hmm.
as a way of saving the internet, if you like.
Well, the technology to do that is certainly there. There's so much going on as far as, sometimes, the blockchain technology is one thing. We talk about the dark web, even though it's a silly name just for accessing internet through a different browser. That's really what it is, a different part of the internet. Where today it's sort of has a reputation of, drugs and terrible, or immoral things, right? However, I think that we're going to see, and I'm not sure that this is a good thing, but I'm thinking that we're going to see political regulation over this. I think that the technology as such, if it's not regulated, we are going to see something that looks a bit like anarchy.
So you're talking about us being very early in the process of the internet, really. So looking ahead, what do you think is the first task to do in order to challenge this?
Obvious thing is diversity. I want there to be space for Swedish and Danish and Indian and Japanese and South American initiatives of all kinds. And we're getting to a point now when we're limiting that scope.
And so if we want to give a metaphor to people, it's really like, for instance, the food industry. Do we only want a few producers of foods, or do we want biodiversity and organic local produce? Basically, we're seeing these battles being fought on many different arenas right now.
If we all had been organically making different choices for ourselves, what if there were 10 equally great search engines that had 10% market share each? We wouldn't have a lot of these discussions even. But we have all unanimously decided that 89% of all search queries should be made on Google. Okay, so then what Google is and does becomes a huge issue. It wouldn't if there were 10 different search engines that work different ways depending on your taste. There are many more than that, except that we don't know about them.
Right. Thank you very much, Andreas, and good luck with your presentation.